Welcome to P5 at Hot News Talk Radio. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Oh, I love Easter too. What about Memorial Day? 4th of July, Independence Day. Oh, even, yeah. How about Thanksgiving? How about Thanksgiving? If you don't celebrate those holidays, leave. Leave. We don't want you here. They're American holidays. Well, we're a pluralistic society and, we can celebrate anything we want. You know what? They're American holidays. Merry Christmas, Barack Obama. Merry Christmas. Say it. Say it. Merry Christmas. Can you say this with me, Duke? Merry Christmas. I am so sick of this political correctness.
Christmas is a national holiday.
What is it that even the kids now, they call it a winter celebration, a winter festival? No, it's about Christmas. You know how and this is not a religious show, but you know how Christ is real? No matter what you or I do, in 2,000 years, no one's going to remember us. There's a calendar based on Jesus Christ. Hey, come on. We celebrate the peace, loving like we are, the giving, the caring, unlike other religions, but it's about Christmas philosophy. The life of Christ. That's what we're trying to do on that day. It's the only day of the year where we try to be nice to each other, even if we disagree. So that has to come from somewhere. That's come from God. We humans are too stupid to do that. Right?
Absolutely. The whole Christmas holiday, I think it's been hijacked a little bit. It's a little bit too, political is not the right word. It's more about commerce and shopping. And I own a small business, so please come shop at my store.
Well, I don't mind that because it's about gift giving. I think that's great. Consumption is fantastic. Consume, shop till you drop. That's great because you're sharing gifts. You're celebrating something that happened that's fantastic. You're making someone happy. Shop. I am a patriot. I have been since I was 13. I joined Young Americans for Freedom. I am a constitutionalist. I'm proud to announce I demand the strict application of the Constitution. Therefore, I despise all Democrats and a lot of Republicans for hijacking our country. And the great thing about being a patriot is understanding it comes with self-reliance. And that means you're responsible for your family. That's what we're going to talk about this hour, Duke, is that what you guys do to help men become men. Really, women are nurturers. Women are the ones that civilize men, but men are the hunter-gatherers. We're responsible for ourselves, our family, our county, our community, our state, and our nation. And that means you have to be prepared. And this is where I believe you guys come in, where you're educating people on how to be prepared, how to do things properly, the food, the shelter, the weapons. They were shooting ducks yesterday in California.
Absolutely. Nobody had a gun in there. Probably a gun-free zone.
And I will say, especially if you're a man and your children don't know how to shoot a gun. My daughter has been shooting since she was 4 years old. That's child abuse. You're not teaching your son how to be a man if they don't know how to shoot a bow and arrow or how to shoot a gun or even learn to carry a gun. Let me tell you here, we are fully armed. Because I believe the next thing these Islamic terrorists are going to do in little cells like this guy yesterday is probably take over a radio television station. And we are fully armed here. We've got a gun right in front of us. I'm armed. You're armed. We've got more guns here. So we're going to shoot back.
Absolutely.
So the chances are they're not going to hit us because they know we're going to shoot back because ultimately they're cowards. So I can tell you this, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in the northeastern part, there are no home robberies or invasions because everyone has a gun.
They actually have work holidays during the first day or two of gun season, of deer season, because they're going hunting.
Because you're from PA.
I've been to PA.
Okay, well, you spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
Well, being from Pennsylvania, the first day of deer season, no one goes to school.
It's practically a state holiday.
Absolutely. So this is not a matter of should I do this, but and being to yours, tell everyone where your store is located.
The store is located on East Brainerd Road. It's at the corner of East Brainerd and Panorama Drive. So the address is 1309 Panorama Drive. But the easiest thing to do is get off of I-75 at exit 3A, head toward Gun Barrel Road in the mall area, and you'll see our big green Army deuce and a half truck parked out front.
And right now, these guys aren't in there with camouflage, with guns. This is a very professional operation. It's a very professional store. You're going to learn about things that you never thought existed regarding how to prepare for disasters, for tragedy. You know, there's only 2-day food supply in this country, that if right now the trucks stop rolling, in 2 days, the food runs out.
I believe it was during Hurricane Katrina that they exhausted the national food supply, and they've never replenished it.
Right. Remember, the government and the media is there to lull you into a false sense of security. That's how they gain their power. We're taking care of you. We're the guy. And let me tell you, I've been in broadcasting since I was 16 years old, and I can tell you this. They can't do anything for you. When there's an emergency, the lines are blocked. We can't even get through as radio stations. So what we do is we send our guys out to get the story. Government shuts down, it fails. You have to be prepared, preppers, to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah, the point that you make about preparedness is so key, and who's responsible for it. Most of my adult life, I've lived in hurricane country, and because of that, I got interested in emergency management. While my background has been in human resources, I've taken a ton of classes. I've worked in emergency operations centers. I've been a first responder. What I've learned is that FEMA writes checks. They write checks to the state emergency management agency, who then allocates resources, which is money, to the local agencies. Local agencies are unprepared. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the manpower because of budget cuts. And so a lot of that falls to the churches. But now we're killing religion in this country. So who's going to help us with our disasters? Because the government's not going to be there, and they're getting religion out of our communities.
It's the great object that all free men be armed. That's what the founders thought. Look at this scroll here. Obama, we do not yet know why this terrible event occurred. What are we doing wasting all this money on the NSA? You are not safe. Do you understand that? This lunatic on television, this so-called president, this used car salesman on television is not going to protect you. How could the president of the United States, with all of our infrastructure and resources, we spend billions upon billions of dollars on spying on you, on sending troops, and we don't know why this happened?
I know why it happened. It's called jihad.
It's called jihad. And you know what? We took troops off the ground from forward. To stop this, you need intelligence on the ground. You need to infiltrate. You need to get in there and learn what they're doing. But since we know the government can't protect you, don't ever think they can. The cops get there after you're dead. But you better protect yourself.
You know who they targeted right off the bat yesterday? CNN had a former FBI something or other special agent, terrorism expert. And while they had no idea where these suspects were, this was before the shootout, before they had any idea who it was, the guy said this was more than likely anti-government militias.
Well, that's the first, listen, it's the first thing they go for. And you have to remember, the federal government murdered a lot of patriots in the 70s and 80s. I can sit here and name 10 off the top of my head, which I'm not going to do. And look at Ruby Ridge. Look at Bill Clinton murdering the Branch Davidians, where most of them were innocent. There was an FBI agent next to them. They want to create terror and fear in your hearts. And if you watch the TV show, the murderer, the terrorist, is the 25 to 54-year-old white male. This is what Hollywood wants to portray. But nothing could be further from the truth. Patriots love their country. They love our military. Patriots, constitutionalists, would never hurt anyone in the military or the police. We see as the enemy the bureaucracy of the federal government, the communists. I call them the occupiers of our constitutional republic, who do not understand that the Constitution was put there to restrict their powers. And these lunatics on national television are asking Obama his opinion? What good is it? He's a communist. He loves this, in my opinion. It gives him the opportunity to gain more power. So you kill a few Americans in a jihad. That gives me an excuse to bring back Stingray and to impose our will upon you, the individual citizen. And this is why I'm so passionate about what these guys do, that you need to be prepared. You need to understand your responsibilities and obligations as an American. What type of classes do you share with individuals so they can be properly prepared, Duke?
Probably the class that everybody should start out with is an intro to preparedness class. With that, we teach you the fundamentals of how to start a fire, how to boil water. That, believe it or not, people don't know how to do that if their stove is not working. That is key. You have to have fresh water. You have to know how to leave your house if you can't stay there, and what to take with you. So we'll teach you how to prepare a bug out bag. We also will teach you how to prepare long-term storage food in maybe a 5-gallon bucket, or how to seal it in a Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers. We have tactical classes. We have communications classes. We can teach you and get you certified to use a ham radio.
What's the phone number? Because we need to give it out right now. We're not going to tease it anymore. What is your phone number? What is your email address? What is your location? Because this is so important, especially as a patriot, to understand these issues, because the first thing that goes is electricity. You and I have seen it. I lived in Florida, lived in Pennsylvania, lived in all over the country. I've been through several hurricanes where literally for a week, there is no power.
Absolutely. I went through an ice storm in 2009 where we didn't have power for nearly 2 weeks. I was fine. My wife was fine, but there were a lot of other people that were hurting pretty badly.
Yeah, in the mid-2000s, I remember calling, this was the early 2000s, the federal government and saying, this Katrina is going to hit the coast, the Gulf of Mexico. All the stations are going to go off the air because that's where our towers are. Can we have permission to broadcast inland? You know what they said?
They said no.
They said no. So you know what I did?
You broadcast.
You damn right I did.
You have to help people.
I put a tower up, I put an antenna up, and I said, let the chips fall where they may. Because I wasn't going to let the people not be informed. We were the only radio station on the air for 36 hours. Because I picture a single woman with 2 kids, her food's going bad. She doesn't know when the power's coming on. She doesn't know where shelter is. She can't get through 911. We're her only hope because she's got a little transistor radio.
Well, wait a minute. I've got the internet. Isn't the internet going to work?
The internet's going down. It'll be the first thing to go down.
So if you look at the Drudge Report today, there is an interesting headline toward the bottom of the page that talks about sun super flares, and it says sun super flares could knock out communications. Well, that's an interesting headline, and that's true. But if you click through the link, it goes to the Independent UK, and the actual story says the sun could spew out huge super flares and put life on Earth in danger. Well, that's very true. The sun could do that. I think it was just 2 or 3 years ago that we missed a sun super flare by a week because of the way the Earth rotated out of the blast. But there's not just sun super flares that could do the same thing. If our enemies were to launch a nuclear missile and explode it over the United States, you'd have an EMP.
Electromagnetic pulse.
Thank you. And that would knock out communications, that would knock out power, and it would be that way for a while.
It's happened, by the way. There have been sun flares, and by the way, there's an 11-year sunspot cycle. The last one was 2012, where there's the height of sun activity, and those flares cause the ozone layer to be ionized heavily and also play havoc with power grids and communications. So that easily could happen at any time. When there is a flood, most people will stay in their house forever until they move. I remember back in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, there was, the government calling for people to abandon their houses, and no one would listen to them. So we took the radio station van to house by house, and we said, can we have your name and first and last name? Because we want to be able to notify kin. Why? Well, because you're going to die. You have one last chance to get out. We want to be able, as a radio station, it's going to be a good story, too, to put your name on the air. So-and-so died because they were too stupid to get out of the flood zone. And most of them left. But it wasn't government that did that, because you can voluntarily stay and die. So it is important to understand these signs, and P5 teaches that. What are the warning signs? And I know you guys have, and this is so important, water filters, because the water could be contaminated. They are now using these water filters all over the world to help indigenous people. Talk about these water filters that are portable.
The technology has come such a long way. It used to be where you had to pump extensively, almost as if you were exercising, for 5 minutes just to get a quart of water. And those filters would be $200. Well, now you can get a high quality water filter. It's a Sawyer Mini We sell it for $25, and it's guaranteed for 100,000 gallons of
That could
water.
save your life.
Absolutely.
Because one of the first things that go bad in floods and when the electricity goes out is you don't have any water to drink. And guess what? There is none available in the stores. And we're not trying to scare you, but we're here in Hickson, and the tornado came through a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, and the power was down for days. So preparedness is not just about the federal government or the local or state governments coming in there and declaring martial law because they want to, for whatever reason, for, maybe just for a tactical reason temporarily to do that, but weather-related issues that would require you to have the knowledge to survive at least for several days.
Absolutely.
Gasoline's another thing. Do you think you're going to have people say, I'll just leave town? No, you're not. You're not going to be able to pump gas because there's no electricity.
Go back to what you said about water. It's even our infrastructure. How old are our pipes? How often do we have boil water orders in our neighborhoods? There was a pipe broken a couple of weeks ago that people were without water for 18 or 24 hours. That's a long time. You need fresh water.
This should be a requirement for every high school kid. You government schools have got to stop propagandizing children and your Marxist, Leninist, leftist garbage with your new math and everything else, and make sure kids, before they graduate, understand these issues so they can live as proper adults. That's what we're doing. We're raising proper adults. But the government schools wouldn't do that because you depend upon stupid Americans for your survival. You depend upon Americans believing they're safe, listening to you, listening to the system, listening to the government. And I can tell you nothing could be further from the truth. The solution, one of them locally, which excites me, is called P5. These guys are fantastic. They'll walk you through A to Z issues on how to protect your family, everything from safe water to having a weapon or weapons to protect yourself. Not every weapon is good for every person. It depends on what you intend to utilize it for, and you must learn how to use that weapon.
That's the key really to everything. You have to know how to use it. You have to know repeatedly in an emergency how to use it, and you have to practice. If you don't practice, I don't care if it's how to start a fire. If you're in the dark, hey, my power went out the other day. In the middle of the night, there was a line that went down because of a tree. It was instantly black. I was thinking, what am I going to do? I don't know where my nearest flashlight is. Well, you know what? I had a cell phone on my hip. That was my nearest light. I went right up to where my bookshelf is. There's a flashlight right there. So again, you have to know how to use it. You have to be properly trained. At P5 Preparedness, we can do that for you. We're talking about solar flares and all that kind of stuff. But it, like I said, it could be a lot more simple than that. It could just be a power line down. Come by P5 Preparedness. You can find us on the website at p5preparedness.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/P5 Preparedness. The store phone number is 423-602-2175. Again, that's 423-602-2175. And we're on Panorama Drive, about a mile up East Brainerd Road from I-75.
This excites me, Duke. If you were a hairdresser or owned a hair salon, you wouldn't be on the air. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So not every business suits this radio station. There are certain businesses that do, certain businesses that don't, because we primarily target men, because 95% of the other radio stations talk to women. And there is a difference. Yes, there's some crossover, but we are primarily talking to males and what males want and need and desire. Very few stations do that. The whole media is geared against males 35 to 64, which troubles me. And you were talking about the flashlight, and I just keep it, see where my app is? I keep it right to the left.
Yep.
It's because there's no light. So if you do have a flashlight app on your phone, know where it is.
Absolutely.
Because expect the lights to go out.
I am surprised it's on the left, though. You should move that over to the right.
Yeah, I should move it to the right. Yeah, I'm going to do that right now because the light is to the right, not to the left. That was good. Touche. I just walked into P5, and I'm curious about where I start. Man, it looks great. You've got solar panels. It looks like you've got packaged freeze-dried food. I see some water flowing. Look at the cool camouflage stuff. I don't see any guns here, though. Well, maybe I'm not looking hard enough. So I just walked in to P5, and I'm wondering, where do I start? How do I take control of my life? How do I make sure that my family is safe in the event of an emergency. Where do I go from here? I just decided to take the plunge because I heard about it on Hot News Talk Radio, and now I'm going to take individual responsibility for myself. When we come back, we're going to talk about steps A through Z. You just walked into the door. You've never been to a prepper shop before. You kind of heard about, what could happen, what you should have, what you shouldn't have, maybe a battery, maybe a flashlight, maybe a weather radio. But when it comes down to it, the P5 preppers know exactly what you need, know exactly what is going to make you and your family safe. Next on Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com, Twitter, Hot News Talk Radio. We're broadcasting live right now worldwide over YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and on the net, Hot News Talk Radio. I'm just loving life. Just buying more and more guns and more ammo. We're going to take this country. We're taking it. We're taking it back, baby. Person by person, city by city, county by county, state by state. We're taking America back. Doesn't it feel great? We're live at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. With me is Duke from P5, the preppers. Love the shop, love the story. And I've decided, you know what? I hear you guys. Time to be a man and take control of my family, my life. And I'm going to stop by and find out about what I need to do in case there is an emergency. So I stopped by P5 Preppers, which is located
East Brainerd Road and Panorama Drive, about a mile off of exit 3, off of I-75.
And there sits that Hummer. And let me tell you, I am going to get a Hummer someday. I am. And on the back of it, it's going to say, I wish I could consume more gas.
You're going to do it with that thing.
Consume. Consumption is a great thing. It's the American way. And I'm going to open the door of that P5 store where that Hummer is. Well, you don't actually squeak when you open the door. And I look in and go, oh, man, this is a man's store. One time, Duke, I actually by accident went into what was next to Target, like Bath and Beyond. I thought I was going to the Target, and I went, "Oh, what? Oh, I'm dying!"
Kind of like.
Did you ever do that? You thought you were?
Well, when you walk into the ladies' bathroom by accident, that's where you realize oh God,
I've never done it by accident. Sorry, no, but when you walk into that prepper store, man, you're in a man's store. And I just walked in and I'm kind of confused. Guys don't like to ask directions. We don't like to ask for anything, but I go, hey, dude, I heard you on the radio. Talk to me about helping my family just in case there is a power outage, just in case there is an emergency. Where do I start?
Yeah, actually, before you come in the door, you got to have the right mindset to be ready to come in the door. A lot of preppers are very secretive. I've been prepared for many years, close to 20 years now. And man, it has been so hard to talk to friends and family who would even accept my point of view without saying, hey, I'm coming to your house. Yeah, that's not the preparedness kind of thing I'm looking for. And so you're ready to come to P5. We're going to keep what you want to do confidential. We don't keep lists. We don't keep names. We have people that come in and give us fake names, and we respect that. We're not interested in what you do and who you are. We're just interested in helping you. We have a lot of people that come in the door and they'll just kind of browse around because they'll have that one thing in mind. They're looking for a specific type of water filter, one of those straw deals that we don't sell because they're crap. They filter 270 gallons of water. Well, we have what'll filter 100,000 gallons of water. When you come into the store, instead of just looking around at everything, come over to the right and talk to one of us that's working there. Talk to Keith, talk to Seth, talk to me. Let us know what we can do to help you.
Never left. Always go to the right.
Absolutely. Got to go to the right. That's where we go. Go
to the right when you walk in. And listen, these guys are friendly. They're not going to judge. Preppers, I think, have been given a bad name, and I'm going to blame the media. Like every Italian, owns a restaurant in the mafia and throws pizza in the air, which is ridiculous. And every prepper is a white supremacist militia, a sovereign citizen that's fighting against the government. It's all don't believe any of that stuff. Stop watching those cop shows. They're all lies. Prepper and being a prepper is about preparing for an emergency to better protect your family. But you have to be informed. If you're not educated, you may die. So education could save your life. And we're not taught this as kids. Mom and dad typically doesn't teach us this. The government systems of lower learning, known as public schools, don't teach us how to be prepared. I've seen it as a broadcaster for 40 years. We run to the emergency, not away from it. We run into the hurricanes, into the flood. After Katrina, there was another flood. Our generator went out. I had to buy another generator, and I literally took a canoe to my transmitter site to get it back on the air, while government officials were nowhere to be found. We actually delivered sandbags and water. It's sad to see how people are so unprepared. I can't emphasize this enough. The government is not going to help you. When we say the government, we mean bureaucrats sitting in cubicles going, well, let me see, 2 + 2 is 3 times 4 over 7. Let me see, can we get out early today? I've worked 2 full hours. It's 4 o'clock. Well, a minute to 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm done. I'm going home. You're relying on these people? Are you serious? You're relying on these people for your safety and the safety of your family? You crazy?
Yep. When I went through my ice storm in Western Kentucky, it knocked out power throughout the whole area. There wasn't a working gas station within 60 miles. There were people that were stranded that had to get out of town, but they didn't have enough gas in their cars to begin with. So it was about on day 4 or 5 before the National Guard showed up with the gas trucks, the fuel trucks, in their big Hemmets. But the problem was that all of their gas spouts were 2-inch nozzles, and they wouldn't fit in cars. So the people, they could pour it down into the gas station, but they didn't have power to pump it back out of the tanks. My point here is that the government is meant to help the government. They're not meant to help us.
Oh, they are. They have camps to help us. You know, like they did in Jersey. They'll put you in that camp that you can't leave, and they'll surround it with barbed wire and tell you, we're helping you. What would you say are the basics that we need? The absolute minimum. But give me 5 items that every single house should have. And prepper is a good word. It means you're prepared for the worst. Hope for the best, prepared for the worst. What would you say are the 5 absolute elements that we need to make sure that we're going to survive a disaster or a tragedy?
We talked about the first one already, and that was a water filter and have some water stored in your house. You don't have to have necessarily 200 gallons or 500 gallons if you have a water source nearby. You just need a way to clean that. You can maybe collect rainwater off the roof somehow. One reason you need water standing by is because if your water source is cut off, you still need to flush the toilets if you're going to use the toilets. So you have to pour water in your tank in the back so your system will flush. So we talked about the Sawyer filter. That's an excellent way to do that. We have 12-gallon watertight food grade buckets that we sell at the store. They're great for selling for storing other things. They're critter proof, they're waterproof, they're airtight. It's great for storing water as well. And at 12 gallons, at about 8 pounds per gallon, you can still move 8 or 12 gallons of water. That's not that heavy. You can do it. So the next thing would be food. You always need some sort of food that you can eat without having to cook it. Something, and I'm not just talking Pop-Tarts and peanuts. There are other things that you can eat that are more substantial than that. In an emergency situation, the average person needs a minimum of 2,000 calories per day. And the reason for that, in an emergency situation, if you're cold, you're going to be shivering a lot. You're going to need those calories. On the flip side, if it's really hot, you're going to be hot. You're going to be sweating. You're going to be burning those calories a lot quicker. Minimum of 2,000 calories a day. You should at least, and I'm talking right off the bat for the people that don't have anything, at least have 3 days supply of that type of food. From there, you go start building for about 7 days. And these are typically foods that you would want to, that you eat on a normal day. You know, you don't eat freeze-dried food or dehydrated food on a daily basis right now. You may someday. The advantage of the freeze-dried food is that it can last up to 25 years. Very convenient. You can store it. It'll last a very long time. The next thing you're going to need is some way to cook. You're going to need to have, you may have to boil water. It's easier to boil water in large amounts if you're going to be doing any kind of cleaning or disinfecting. So it may be the gas grill, but instead of having just one tank, have 2 extra tanks. One thing that the preppers say a lot is 2 is 1, 1 is none. Because the time that you buy that one item, hey, Murphy's Law, it's going to break. You're not going to have it. Another thing you're going to have is a bug out bag. And that's just kind of the common name that folks in the prepper industry call it. That's basically a backpack that has everything that you may need if you have to leave your house. For instance, the folks that live out in the wilderness in California, in the wildfire country, they all have a bug out bag because they may have to leave in a very short period of time. That's a 72-hour bag. That should have medications in it, an extra pair of prescription glasses, a couple changes of clothes. So that way you can grab something, you can put it in your car, and you can get to a safer location.
Duke and Seth own P5 Preppers location. And I want you to think it's just for preppers. You can go in there and buy a solar panel. I love your solar panels. Remember, when the electricity fails, your cell phone fails. What I would recommend with the solar panels is I always have radios on hand, 2-way radios. I have CBs, ham radio, and also these little walkie-talkies that operate on UHF or VHF. They're $20, $30 a piece. So you can communicate with your family and others, because your cell phone will go down in the event of an emergency. It'll either be overloaded or their generator will eventually run out, and you will not be able to communicate with anyone or make any phone calls. Duke, how important is it? To me, this is very important that you protect then what you have, because those that don't have may want what you have. How important is it to protect those resources so you can first make sure your family is safe?
As a man, that's your first priority, to make sure your family's safe. Sometimes there's not a male role model, male figure in the house. You know what? Firearms work for women and men as well. Some of the best shooters are women. But you have to have a firearm. You have to have a way of protecting yourself. I remember an old story from a business in Texas that was being robbed. There was a guy that had a hoodie, and he had his gun in the pocket of his hoodie. And while he was robbing the counter, there were 3 customers that came up behind him that had firearms that were pointing at this guy. It turns out the armed robber had a comb in his pocket. You know what? Guns are there to protect you. The Second Amendment is there to protect all of us. The Second Amendment is there to protect us from government tyranny. It's not there just to make sure we can own a handgun in our house. That's not the government's right to decide.
Just having a gun prevents violence. Just someone knowing you have a gun and knowing you could shoot back prevents violence. And it, in most cases, will force them to back off.
Yes, absolutely. It's very fearful to look down the barrel of a gun.
Well, in this day and age, the male is considered to be a fool if you're watching any TV shows, especially sitcoms. The males are always the criminals, so on. So they're diminishing the male in society, especially due to the fact that 60% of all households now, single females, typically raising a child, and maybe even the male child. And this is not to diminish a woman's role, because 25% of our listeners are females. But I think women are less likely to understand the male role being a woman. I have a daughter. I'm less likely to understand the female role. Therefore, my other half, who is a female, takes on that role. How important is it for that female that's listening right now to come to your store, have a conversation with you, and basically transform her little boy into a man? And that means knowing how to change a tire, maybe how to change oil, learning how to shoot a bow and arrow, having a gun, how to be prepared, and to take care of their family once they become an adult. These are the building blocks of being a responsible male in society once they reach 18.
You've hit it exactly. You may not know this, but we have a Boy Scout troop that we run out of the store, and we focus on emergency preparedness. We focus on disasters. We shoot guns. We shoot bow and arrows. We teach our boys, actually, they have to do all their own cooking. We don't carry a 5-gallon bucket of water to the woods every month. And we do go camping every single month, rain or snow. It doesn't matter. We're going out in the woods. And our boys are becoming men because of that. And, you know, ladies, just because you may be married, or men, you may be married, but that doesn't mean you're the man of the house. You know, you may come home, flip on Sports Center, and you may watch sports all night. Well, that's not teaching your kids how to be men, or that's not teaching your young ladies how to be women. You've got to make an effort. Come by the store. We are more than happy to talk with you about the Scout Troop, about our classes. You know, hey, we're up on the latest conspiracy theories. We have to be. But that doesn't mean that we buy into everything. We are here to help you reach your goals with prepping. Everybody has to start somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's today. It doesn't matter how far you are behind somebody else. You know, I've been prepping for 20 years and I still don't feel like I'm prepped enough, but I'm better off than the person that hasn't started yet. And when things really get bad, you know, you look at what Russia's doing, what's happening in Syria, and they're talking about nuclear weapons over there. You look at what's happening with Turkey, and, you know, hey, Turkey is NATO, and if I remember correctly, U.S. is kind of the big dog in the NATO backyard. So we're controlling what goes on over there, whether you want to believe it or not.
And what's amazing is if you inform individuals, typically they will make the right choice. I can tell you this, in doing this 40 years, government hates my guts. They hate talk radio because we're not afraid of them. We're not afraid to be men. We're not afraid to tell the truth and basically unclothe them and make them naked before everyone, because that's what men do. Don't be afraid of being a man. Don't be emasculated. Be a man. Stand your ground. Make a statement. Have an opinion. Say, I'm taking back my family, my town, my city, my state, and my nation. And that's what being a man is about. And that starts with your choice. That starts with you wanting to do it. Not an election, not a group, not a community. That starts with you. And one of the things I love about P5, and let me tell you, I don't think I've ever promoted on this or any other radio station, any organization as much as yours, because you're a patriot organization. You're preppers. You understand the Constitution. You understand what America is and has been going through. Seth and Duke are local economy. It's their store. Let me tell you something. It is very difficult to run a retail store, two guys against these big giants out there. So I would say if you need anything at all in the area of prepping, you need to go to P5. Because if we let little business go, we're letting America go. These big corporations are international. They have no heart, no soul, and it comes down to them really not caring about you. But I walk in the other day and Seth is stocking. He's pulling things out of the back. He's working his butt off. It's almost 5 o'clock and he's still working. And as an individual business owner, I would say probably till midnight, you're still working or thinking about your business, because I can tell you guys care about what you do. But in that, you also need to be financially rewarded. And that means it's a quid pro quo. They're giving you something of value, information, classes, stuff, whether it be a device to make sure you're not going to go without water or go without food. In return, you give them remuneration and hope that they continue to succeed so they can restock, feed their family, and live. It's the circle of life, but we need to do it individually.
That's right. You can find products that we sell at other places, and you know, Amazon, you may call that a local business. I know they've got a distribution center here, and we can't compete with Amazon. But when you come to our store, what you're going to do is take it out of the box. We're going to explain it to you. We're going to show you how to use it. We're going to ensure that it works. And if you have any problems with it, you're going to come back and we're going to teach you how to use it again. We'll swap it out. We're going to ask or answer your questions. So there are a couple things that you touched on. You know, one thing, when you're talking about men and taking responsibility and teaching their children how to be adults, you know, one of the things, and this is something that I have struggled with personally, is pride. Pride's a good thing if you're building something. You want to build it the right way. But if pride is going to keep you from doing the right thing, even though you know it's the right thing, or if you're ashamed to say you're sorry, get over it. hurt feelings is hurt feelings. Suck it up and drive on, but do the right thing. Teach your kids how to be men. And then the other thing, I wanted to go back to when you said talk about the 5 things. The last 2 kind of go hand in hand with exactly what you were talking about. Communications. You have to know what's going on in your surroundings. If there's power outage or if there's bad people that are on the loose, they're heading your way, you have to know what's going on. And if the power is out, you have got to have some sort of backup power mechanism. We have a lot of things from battery chargers that work off of 12 volts so you can plug it into your car accessories to solar panels. We have backpack-sized solar panels. They'll recharge AA or AAA batteries. And then we also have mobile solar carts that you can hook up 2 or 3 of the 250-watt solar panels with 4 or 5 batteries, and you can have a 4,000 or 5,000-watt system that'll power just about everything you need in your house, except maybe for your oven or your electric heat.
And you know what I noticed too? Preppers are not sitting around going, "Oh, we need to take over the government." It's not about that. It's about being prepared for if and when the system does take an action they shouldn't, or if and when there is an emergency. There will be an emergency. There will be tornadoes. There will be hurricanes. There will be floods. So it's not a bunch of guys sitting around going, "Okay, let's go out in the woods and shoot. We're the militia. We're going to take back the government." It's not that. We're going to take our system back when they fail, and they're failing because their way doesn't work. It fails every time, all the time. And if you're not prepared when it eventually collapses and fails, guess what happens? You're left behind. You don't want that. You want to go to P5. Tell everybody where you're at.
We are located at 1309 Panorama Drive, and that is on the corner of East Brainerd Road and Panorama Drive. We're about a mile off of I-75 on exit 3A. You can find out some of our information on the web at p5preparedness.com. We post a lot of information about our classes on Facebook. That's facebook.com/p5preparedness. And feel free to call the store. You're talking about stocking it at 5 o'clock. We're actually there till 7 o'clock every night, Monday through Saturday. We're open from 10 to 7, but then our classes often run till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Every Thursday night from 6:45 to 9 o'clock, we have a networking meeting. And what that does, we have a topic. It's a roundtable discussion with other preppers who have interests in specific things, and they want to learn. And so what we do is we moderate that meeting. It's free of charge. We just ask that you call and let us know that you're coming so we can save you a seat, because often it's standing room only there. And you will find out a lot of good information from your fellow preppers. And the key to that is it's networking. We've had people that have hooked up that are in Ringgold or in Cleveland, and they've started to work together. They've built friendships. They built the trust in one another where they're working together. And when things get really bad, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to lean on somebody else. So let P5 Preparedness help you with your individual needs and also to get you ready working with a group.
And you're going to be here the first and third Wednesday of each month, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this is going to be great. And we specifically didn't take calls today because we had so much to talk about. Duke, I can go another 4 hours with you on this. There's so much to talk about. We barely scratched the surface, but your next appearance, we will be taking phone calls. You can always email us at hotnewstalkradio@gmail.com. You can Twitter us, Hot News Talk Radio. We're on YouTube at Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com opens our audio feed over the net worldwide, streaming at HotNewsTalkRadio.com. Your phone number, once again, Duke, and your website and your location for anyone that wants to be further informed on this.
The phone number again, 423-602-2175, 423-602-2175. The email address is info@p5preparedness.com. The website is p5preparedness.com. And P5 Preparedness is what you can find us on Twitter. We're at 1309 Panorama Drive in Chattanooga, and that's off East Brainerd Road, about 1 mile from the interstate.
Thank you so much, Duke. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And, of course, your ads will be right here at Hot News Talk Radio.